He was right on the side.
You don't have to be so quiet. Like we're at church service or something. It's a big day. How many times do you get to see a bill signed by the governor of the state of Florida? That's right.
Good morning. I don't think we've ever done a press conference in Jacksonville with this good of a view, so I'm excited. Thanks for hosting us. We appreciate ViStar doing that, and thank you all for being here. We got a couple good bills to be able to sign that we're looking forward to doing. I do want to recognize a lot of the folks that are here. Our Chief Financial Officer, Jimmy Petronis, Rick Skaggs, President and CEO, USF Federal Credit Union, incoming Board Chair, League of Southeastern Credit Unions, Brian Wolfberg, President and CEO, ViStar Credit Union, Gary Ramey, CEO, Liberty Ammunition, Isabella Sala, second grade teacher, Cornerstone Classical Academy. We have representatives Jocks, Black, Michael, and Duggan. And then we have Senator Clay Yarborough here. So thank you all, and thank you for what you did to bring this legislation to the forefront. We pride ourselves on standing up for folks and doing what's right, particularly in the face of other people's agenda outside of Florida, outside of the United States even. People have this idea, some of these bad ideas that they want to impose on other people. Now, a lot of them don't want to live under the ideas they want to impose on you, and they want to do their own thing. But you see this with some of the stuff that's happening. So, for example, yesterday we were down in Hardee County in the middle of the Florida heartland because, there is a movement to really go after agriculture, to go after cattle ranching, and to say these people actually say that humans should be eating insects, and you should just grow meat in a lab and not do it the old-fashioned way. And so we said, okay, well, why? What is driving this? And what's driving it is an agenda. They want to impose that. They want to phase out basically our way of life on a lot of these different things and impose this. And so we nipped that in the bud yesterday with the cattle ranching, and to make sure that they're going to be able to produce the meat and not get to a point where that gets forcibly, and I think it would be at some point in the future, forcibly displaced. And in this day and age, all it takes is some federal bureaucracy to issue a rule. They don't even pass laws anymore. They just issue a rule saying you can do this or can't do that, and then you got to fight in court and all this other stuff. So you see that. We've also seen it in actions we've already taken in the state of Florida. For example, we are the first state to ban the Chinese Communist Party from buying land in our state. And why would we want them to have land here? And other states have now followed suit because you've seen a movement. They want farmland. They want land near military bases. And they're not just doing that to contribute to America. They're doing it for their own interests. So you see that. We also were the first state to enact policies to prevent the imposition of a central bank digital currency. And that's something that the Fed has talked about. They don't have authority to do it absent Congress, but they may do it at some point anyways, or try to. And that'll be a way to phase out cash, have a digital dollar, which they are going to have supervision over. And they'll have supervision over how you use that. And that's totally comes out of this playbook where you have these elites that want to impose that down, and they've bragged about it. You can look at things like Davos and the World Economic Forum. They'll have panels where people will be bragging. They'll say, yeah, if you have central bank digital currency, you can circumscribe ammunition purchases, fuel, all the things that they don't want you to do. So it's clearly, it's not a wolf in sheep's clothing. It's just a wolf coming as a wolf, and we said no to that. And that was smart. We also, in recent years, signed legislation, and today's bills will touch on this, to protect your right to do business in Florida, to participate in the financial system without having your political opinions weaponized against you. We see it in places like China where they have a social credit system. So if you don't take certain positions, they can downgrade your score, and then maybe you can't participate in society. And we were really strong on doing that. And we also did things in terms of the ESG. Well, I'll say more about the ESG in a minute, beyond just the personal banking, but certainly personal banking. We had situations where someone was debanked because they happen to be own a firearms store or happen to be involved in other types of activism. And you know, at some level, it's like people can kind of do what they want in both business and individual, but when you have a handful of companies that really control so much, and if they all decide to put their thumb on the scale against you, you really have very little recourse at that point, particularly as a small business person. So Florida stepped in to provide protection so that people will be able to participate in the economy. We've also protected Floridians from the tracking of credit card transactions related to the purchase of firearms or ammunition, and that's something that people want to do, and there's reasons why they want to do that, which are not good if you believe in Second Amendment rights. So we were able to do that. All this stuff falls under a rubric of ESG, environment, social governance, and again, this is something that, you know, you'll have these people, you know, fly into Davos on their private jets, massive numbers of private jets flying into Davos, and yet turn around and have panels saying that farmers are causing global warming, or you shouldn't be able to drive an internal combustion engine in your personal vehicle, or you shouldn't be able to eat meat, or this or that. Now, they will never abide by any of those restrictions themselves, but they have this vision, which is really a dystopian vision that would undermine vitality and freedom in our country. And so we've said in Florida, that agenda is dead on arrival here, and we've done that in a variety of ways. So we were the leader in this country in kneecapping the use of ESG in state pension investing. And if you think about it, there's a handful of companies that have huge power in that. And if they're going to say certain things must be done with their investment decisions, even though if you're a retired cop or teacher, your pension's probably going to do worse as a result of that, they do that. And so if they're allowed to do that, you're going to see changes to society without you ever having any say of it at the ballot box. So we said that's not happening in Florida. We eliminated ESG from our pensions. You're not allowed. Now, sometimes people say, well, if someone wants to invest in a solar company, why they can't? They can in Florida. You can invest in what you want, but the goal is what's the best return for the person on the pension. It's not to promote an agenda that you may want as an asset manager or as somebody else that has a high position in the financial in the financial system. So we led on that, and you have other states that have followed. And now you see headlines all the time saying how these ESG funds are hemorrhaging. People are fleeing these funds because it is subordinating the interest of the person receiving the pension to the desire of the people who are managing the money and want to impose policy for their own sake. And we're not going to let them weaponize our pension to advance an ideological agenda. So we've done really yeoman's work, and we did it. This is years ago we started on the ESG front in the state of Florida. And it's very complicated in terms of how all this stuff gets managed with the State Board of Administration. We do have an incoming, is going to head is someone from my office, Chris Spencer, who knows all of this stuff. And it's going to be very good because we're going to be even tighter on the ESG. It's going to be really, really fantastic to be able to see that. But this is a whole cottage industry that's developed, and it raises the question. It's like, okay, we have a constitution, we have elections, we're supposed to govern ourselves. You know, can you just have like 10 companies and some asset managers, some big Wall Street banks just decide, you know, they don't like firearms, so you're cut out, they don't like this, so you're cut out, and basically just change policy at their whim without any any input or any ratification of we the people. I don't think that that works for a free country to be able to do. I think to say that just a handful of companies can leverage their financial might to shape society the way they want to, regardless of the outcome of elections, is not what the Founding Fathers intended. So, and ultimately, what we're doing with ESG is going to be better for the economy, too. It's not going to work to have a politicized economy. If companies are expected to take positions on all these different issues and become basically political entities, that's going to subtract from their ability to actually return value to their shareholders if they're publicly traded, or to do well if they're not. And that's just not good. We're not going to grow the economy as well. We're not going to have as much economic success. So we were right to be able to do that, and we've really led the way in terms of fighting back against ESG. We've also led on fighting back against this DEI that you see in corporate America, and particularly in higher education. You want to see the fruits of DEI? Just look at Columbia University. Not exactly the way you want to run a ship. So we said no DEI in Florida. Now it says it's called diversity, equity, and inclusion, but if you look at the way it's practiced, it's an ideological agenda. It's really twisted around to weaponize against groups that the proponents of this don't like. So as practice, it's discrimination, exclusion, and indoctrination. That does not have a place in our public universities, and so we are the first state in the country to eliminate it. Now Texas has done it. Iowa, a bunch of other states are now following suit, and this has become something that most people agree. Initially, to do any of that was a really bad idea, whatever the intentions were, and there may have been good intentions. I think there probably were some bad too, but clearly this has morphed into the weaponization. So you go to a university, you don't even have to, it's not even about even the classroom, the whole apparatus is weaponized around that. So not in the state of Florida. And incidentally, you look, people try to pitch a tent at our universities. They're shown the door very quickly on that. We're not putting up with it. This is not New York. This is not California. We're going to enforce appropriate standards of conduct, and simply commandeering a lawn with a tent and harassing other people, that does not pass. That does not fly in the state of Florida. So we were able to do the DEI. But if you look at some of the stuff with the financial institution, you've had a lot of examples of folks being discriminated against just based on their views or what they're doing, legal stuff, but just what they're doing. Moms for Liberty, they're very much active in Florida and around the country in education, promoting parents' rights, good curriculum. They had their account frozen by PayPal for no reason. National Committee for Religious Freedom, this is a nonprofit fighting for religious liberty. They had their account terminated by a big bank because they wouldn't reveal their donor list. Geo Group, that's a private corrections group based out of Boca Raton here in Florida, had their accounts terminated by both Bank of America and JP Morgan because they were being contracted out by ICE to help enforce immigration law. So, you have some of these major banks basically saying that the appropriate position you have to take to do business with them is to support nullifying immigration law, not enforcing immigration law. Look at that. Look what that's done for us in this country by not enforcing immigration law. So you see that time and time again, but that is what they want to do. They want to be able to use their commanding positions in our society to twist in the direction that they want to do. So we have addressed this, provided protections for Florida. The legislature believed that there was more that needed to be done, and so they passed HB 989. This will enhance Florida's protections for consumers against ESG activism in our financial system, and it protects them against a social credit system or discrimination based on their viewpoints. We think that that's something that's very important. So there's now going to be a more robust process for people who have been in this situation. So if you own a firearm store, federal firearm license, following the laws, everything, if they just cut you off because they don't like that business, you have recourse here. in this new piece of legislation. And I know Jimmy's going to talk a little bit more about that when he comes up. The other part of this bill that's really good, that's part of the reason we're here at ViStar, Florida had a provision of law that said only banks could hold public deposits. Public credit unions were not allowed to hold public deposits. And so, you know, the state uses financial institutions for our money, and we've got a lot of money because we have a big budget surplus, unlike other states. So we're doing that, and well, it's true. So they weren't allowed to do that, and, you know, first of all, it didn't really make sense why you wouldn't have, you know, more options for us. It's your taxpayer dollars. Wouldn't you want the best deal possible? Credit union's going to give us a good deal, then we want to do business with them. That's just the reality of it. So this bill ends that artificial barrier. It opens up competition to other financial institutions. So our Florida-based credit unions, like the ones here today, will be able to hold up to 7% of all funds in the state treasury and 7% of all public deposits of any state university or community college. And if they're not providing a good deal, then fine, people can go elsewhere. But if they're providing a good deal, you're going to be able to do that. And I think that will incentivize good behavior, good competition in terms of some of this other stuff. And it also is like, look, I mean, I think our community banks in Florida have been great. I think that they're serving the communities. I think that they are very much representative in many respects of the core values of the state. But I do think some of these big Wall Street banks, you know, they have much different agenda. So why would we give them a benefit over a credit union that's based in Florida and that is not involved in a lot of the stuff that's contrary? So I think it makes sense from a variety of perspectives. So I'm glad that the legislature did that, and I'm happy to be able to sign that into law here in a second. I'm also signing HB 1291. And Florida, under Florida law, the State Board of Education has the responsibility of approving or setting out guidelines for teacher preparation and teacher training. And we've done a lot on increasing teacher pay, and we're actually going to do more this year than we've ever done, but we've done billions of dollars in increase. We've created pathways for people to become teachers outside of some of the more traditional, like go to a school of education. And we have veterans that we're getting into the classroom, former law enforcement, a bunch of good stuff. We also have a civics program. Teachers can go train 50 hours of instruction. They get a $3,000 bonus. So we've done a lot, and we're proud of that. But the legislature on this looked at it and said, we don't want these teacher preparation programs to become captive to someone's ideological agenda. So, you know, we can say, you know, no DEI, for example, or no CRT in the classroom, but if you're teaching, if you're preparing teachers with that rubric, well, I mean, that's what you're going to end up getting. So this bill prohibits the indoctrination in teacher preparation. So there's not going to be DEI. There's not going to be, you know, any of the bogus history. You know, it's just going to be standard teacher preparation without having an ideological agenda. And I think that that's something that is that we want to see. Parents want to send their kids to school knowing they're getting an education. I don't think they're interested in an indoctrination. I don't think that parents care if a teacher has a certain political cause that they care about or political ideology. That's not the appropriate venue for that to be in like a second grade classroom or fifth grade classroom. It's got to be focused on the education. All this other stuff, you know, that's something that kids learn about in their upbringing and at home and a whole bunch of other things. But to say you're going to take one viewpoint, one perspective, and try to impose that as the standard for curriculum, that doesn't work in Florida, and we don't do it. So here on the teacher preparation, that is going to reflect our overall policy, and I think that that's something that's really, really good. The other thing we're doing, and it's not reflected in these bills, is, you know, they have some of these trainings that are done in corporate America. The DEI has been very prominent. And, you know, look, there are things you can do that you can do. There's other things that have been done that we believe run afoul of workplace laws, civil rights laws, and can create a hostile work environment. Now, we tried to clarify and make that explicit in a piece of legislation I signed a few years ago called the Stop Woke Act, which we basically said if you are an employee, you have a right to opt out of this training. If, for example, if it says that you have to say that white people are bad or whatever, feel guilt because you're this. Like, that's just ridiculous. And so you have a right to opt out. And the courts incredibly said that that was their First Amendment right to do that training on you without you having an ability to opt out. And companies can say what they want. They can do this stuff, but an employee should have the right to free themselves from a hostile work environment. And so we've been working since that decision came down from the 11th Circuit panel with the Attorney General's office. And it's our view that current Florida civil rights laws prohibits some of this racist training that is being done and imposed under the rubric of DE&I. And private company can stand, they can shout from the rooftops, things that we don't like, but you have a right as an employee under Florida law to be in a healthy work environment. And so if you have some of these trainings where an employee is being told that they are inherently racist or sexist or bad in any respect, doesn't matter if you're white, black, anything, it's just not the way you treat people. You treat people as individuals. And so that could constitute actionable conduct under Florida's existing law. So we're going to be saying more about this, but the Stop Woke Act was really just enumerating and making clear that we believe this was the case anyways. You're going to make sure that we fight back against a hostile work environment. So stay tuned on that. We're going to be rolling out some more stuff administratively, and I think it's going to be really, really good. So all in all, this is a big day. There's a lot of stuff on the plate here. I want to thank everyone involved, but more importantly, we want to hear from some of the other folks who are here with us today. So we will start with our Chief Financial Officer, Jimmy Petronas.
I love this guy. Don't y'all love him? I tell you, this is the third governor I've gotten to work with, and this guy just rolls uphill. And there's a type of momentum he brings to the legislative process that has been very appreciative. The members here, we've got members here as far as Pinellas County that have made the trip over here, and it's nice. It's nice, the enthusiasm of following a leader into battle. And the decisions that we're making here in the state of Florida have brought over 400,000 new Floridians to the state of Florida last year alone. They're bringing their money with them. They're bringing their investments with them. They're bringing their businesses with them. They're bringing their values with them. The type of people that we're getting here, the people that we want. And they're leaving these blue states that are broken in policy, they're broken in morals, and they're broken financially, and they're coming to the free state of Florida. So again, another round of applause. Thank you, sir. So House Bill 989 was our agency bill, and good work by Representative LaMarca and Senator DeSantis, and did a lot of really neat things. But where we want to focus on is the Qualified Public Deposit Program. That's a nice, big, long word that I'm not going to repeat again. But that is the program that my office administers. That is our public dollars. That is where our universities can park money, our cities, our counties, our agencies. And as they park that money in there, for years, as the governor pointed out, there was no lane for our credit unions to play in. So we had an environment where it was limited to about 119 banks in the state of Florida that were there that could invest this money. Banks need money, okay? But at the end of the day, we wanted to create an environment where we wanted to get the attention, we want to get the maximum return on investment, and as the governor pointed out, some of the things that we have seen in the policies that some of our larger fund managers, they have started taking our own dollars and use it for their own political agenda. And the attitude that we've had in the state of Florida is, if you want to go and change a culture, change a way of life, change a philosophy, go start up a non-for-profit, go run for office, go do it with your money. But don't do it with the money of our pensioners, our firefighters, our first responders. So the argument started to be made more and more that we had to make sure that we're getting the maximum return on investment for those that we are trustees over and taking care of. Because they take care of us 24/7. We needed to make sure the state of Florida understood that we were going to take care of them when they needed and expected us. So by opening this program up to credit unions now, what we've done, is we're going to give more tools in the toolbox, just like the governor said. And where we can get a better return on investment, if it happens to be with a credit union, bonus for the taxpayers, okay? And at the same time, we've gotten the attention of the banks that say, you know what, you're going to focus on the bottom line, best return on investment, and this will be a great deterrent to get their attention when it comes to woke ideologies and policies that they are contemplating embracing. So again, this is one way the state of Florida has stepped up and said, you know what, Washington, you're broken. You can't seem to get your act together. But in the state of Florida, we're going to continue leading and making a difference. I love telling this story. I met 3 separate families earlier this year. One was from Buffalo, New York. One was from New Jersey. The other one was from Chicago, Illinois. And I asked all 3 families, I said, you know, why did you, I was in the restaurant business 30 years. I'm always recruiting. And why did you move here? And I'm thinking to myself, their kids are here, a job, the weather. All 3 families said the same thing in different conversations: taxes. They moved here because they wanted to keep more of their money. So that's exactly what we're doing. And one thing this guy gets, he gets it, that the citizens of the state of Florida spend their money better than Tallahassee does. Okay? And oh, by the way, we're in the best fiscal health in the history of the state of Florida. Y'all can clap for that one. So this program we administer has $38 billion under management. That's a big carrot. That's a good stick that we have to get the attention of these financial institutions, let them be competitive, but also focus on what the bottom line should look like. And, you know, this is just more evidence that Florida is going to be and still is the place where woke goes to die. Earlier last year, my office, we divested $2 billion from BlackRock. And it's because they were focusing on ESG more so than the bottom line. We also acted against Morningstar because they were targeting Israeli companies. So we're not going to stand and allow this woke ideology to take over our financial institutions. Again, Governor, thank you for your leadership. Thank you all for being in attendance here today, and I look forward to seeing this amazing piece of legislation being signed in just a couple minutes.
It's not a long speech. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to be with you today. This is a very eventful and a positive day for us to move forward in our state. I am honored to be with you today and to represent Florida's 117 credit unions, and a collective of almost 7.6 million Floridians belong to credit unions. That's 1 in 3 Floridians. So we do have a big scale across the state of Florida. My name is Rick Skaggs. I am the president and CEO of the University of South Florida Federal Credit Union and the incoming chairman, as the governor said, for the League of Southeastern Credit Unions. So it's good to be here with you and represent our credit unions, and we are so excited for this legislation, and we thank you for the work that's been done for that. On behalf of the credit unions, I would like to express our sincere appreciation to the governor and to our CFO and the Florida legislature for their leadership in allowing credit unions to be designated, and I'm going to use the term, qualified public depositories in the state of Florida. And if you look at our mission and what credit unions do, you know, we're focused on the well-being and financial wellness of our citizens here in the state of Florida, and that is ingrained in our motto of people helping people. Given the cooperative structure of credit unions, those designated qualified public depositories can potentially earn higher earnings for state agencies, and this will in turn, as the CFO said, help everyone in the stream of our deposits. With public deposits, credit unions can further invest in financial literacy programs and educational initiatives to empower their members in a broader community with necessary knowledge and skills to make informed financial decisions. Investing public funds into credit unions will keep a portion of Florida's taxpayer dollars invested here in Florida. Credit unions have maintained a long-standing partnership with centers of higher learning through our strategic partnerships with the Florida State University System and the Florida State College System. And to give you an example of, I think, the good work that's going to come out of this legislation is at my credit union. So last year we invested $7 million back to the University of South Florida to help them with their strategic initiatives. With this legislation, this will now allow the University of South Florida to invest back in their credit union with a greater rate of return, and we can turn that $7 million into a much larger number. So we're so excited to have this legislation signed today. This is positive for our state. This is moving in the right direction. Credit unions maintain unwavering commitment and investment in the lives of all Floridians. And once again, we thank Governor DeSantis for his leadership to expand the credit union's ability to serve Floridians. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Brian Wolfberg, President and CEO of ViStar Credit Union. I'd like to welcome everyone to our headquarters here in Jacksonville. Thank the Governor for being with us and for everything you did on this bill, the CFO Petronas, your office, the administration. The legislature's support of public deposits was extremely important to us. You and your team have been strong allies to Florida's credit unions, and we truly appreciate it. As has been noted, this bill closes a loophole in state law that prevented credit unions from holding public deposits and thus offering the state options on its banking deposits. I think we can all agree that options and competition are always good. For decades, departments, agencies, universities in our great state have been shut off from an extremely robust and viable marketplace, and that is Florida's credit unions. Each of us in this room has the opportunity to make our own personal choices about our hard-earned dollars. Until today, the state and other agencies have not had that same flexibility. The price of this closed market and less competition has been borne by individuals, families, small businesses in our state. Because as was noted, the state treasury dollars are our dollars at work. Public funds should always be placed with where they can earn the best return in a safe manner, and we will see going forward that in many cases that will be with Florida's credit unions. We all know credit unions are already a trusted source for individuals, families, and businesses in the state to do their banking and to obtain capital. In fact, our credit union has been doing this for close to 1 million members in the state for over 72 years. We also know that by keeping more business and more deposits in the state with credit unions that are headquartered here, we're going to be able to amplify more economic development and do more good in this state. In closing, again, thank you, Governor. We look forward to continuing to work with you, your administration, and the legislature to keep Florida's economy growing and keep its residents financially secure. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Gary Ramey. I'm the CEO of Liberty Ammunition. And before I begin, I'd like to thank the governor for his service and his family as well for the service to our nation and the military. Thank you, sir. I can tell you it is very much appreciated in our industry. Does everybody know what an FFL is? The governor referenced it. It's a federal firearms license. Now, to get one of those, you have to apply to the federal government. You have to have the FBI investigate you, background checks galore. You have to have a location. You have to have the ATF come out to your location, make sure it's secure, make sure they approve of it. Then you have to agree to pay a 10% sales tax, an excise tax if it's a pistol, or 11% if it's ammunition or a long gun. All that goes to conservation, the Robinson-Pittman Act, and that's all for the privilege of having an FFL to then potentially face financial discrimination. Again, my name is Gary Ramey. I'm the CEO of Liberty Ammunition in Bradenton, Florida. I've been in the industry for 20 years. Liberty Ammunition, in case you're wondering who we are, we make the premier self-defense ammunition for the consumer, and we have a new line of duty ammo for law enforcement and military, simply the best. We've been around for roughly 20 years. And sadly, I have faced financial discrimination. My wife Pam and I, before coming to Florida, started a gun company in Georgia. All's going well, lots of hopes and dreams. We're working well together. And then we get a notice that our website's being shut down. Well, why is that, we asked. Well, it's because of the category you're in. Our credit card processor can't process those checks anymore. Sorry, no more credit card charges. So, what do you do as a small business? You make adjustments, you change, get a new website, get a new credit card processor, things are going great again. And then the accounting software company says, well, you can't accept an order emailed to you and put it into the accounting software. That violates our rules. Well, how can that be? We're federally licensed, and we're only shipping to other federally licensed facilities. And yet, they tell us we can't do that. So we overcame it. We did some workarounds, but it was discrimination nonetheless, and it is partisan and it is pure politics. Move forward to today, when we go to banks to talk to them about banking, and we say, we'd like to get a credit facility. What do they tell us? Well, because of the category you're in, we'd like you to make a presentation to our credit committee. Folks, the financial discrimination comes in many different forms, and it is certainly affecting our industry. In our industry, by the way, there's 4,500 FFLs here in Florida, accounting for 23,000 jobs. The economic impact of our industry in Florida alone is $4.7 billion. It's a significant industry. So on behalf of the industry, I'd like to thank Governor DeSantis for standing up to these institutions and helping keep America free and Florida the #1 state in America. Thank you, Governor.
Good morning. My name is Isabel Sala, and I am currently a second grade teacher here in the Duval County Public School System. Thank you, Governor DeSantis, for providing an opportunity for me to speak on behalf of strengthening education preparation programs, especially when it comes to strengthening young educators to feel confident in historically accurate content that will prohibit indoctrination of any kind. Currently, I work at Cornerstone Classical Academy, where I cannot be more blessed with the rigor and richness we teachers get the privilege to provide each student in all subject areas. It excites me to say that every day I walk into my classroom and get a chance to share historical curriculum that spans from ancient India to ancient Greece, the making of our Constitution to westward expansion. And that's just to name the history curriculum. Our curriculum is woven together so that students not only grow in depth of their understanding, but are also ignited to learn even more about our beautiful country molded on truth, goodness, and beauty. The students come in each lesson eager to learn about historical events and how the formation of these events have chronologically unfolded over the years. Yet keep in mind this is all happening in a second grade classroom of 8-year-olds. It saddens me, however, that not every educator in this country gets the opportunity to witness this great, healthy cultivation of knowledge. Let me backtrack a little bit for you to better get an understanding. I grew up in a conservative household where my parents blessed me with the morals and the foundation to stand on my own beliefs, including the importance of history. Yet, when I attended college over 6 years ago now, I walked into my first history course and quickly knew that it was going to be a test. I walked into my first history class and knew it was going to be a test. I would have to stand on my own passion of what education should look like. I spent most of my time opposing my professors, one in which told me Hamilton, the Broadway musical, was historically appropriate to show students to teach about our founding fathers. You could say that there was a lack of historical knowledge being taught at my university, not in the state of Florida. Yet my passion of history never died. In fact, it grew even more to learn the truth of what must be shared with the future citizens of our nation. But here's the bigger question I came to terms with. What about all the other passionate educators that were not gifted with knowing the truth that I was at a young age? Are they left to follow history curriculum blindly, no matter whether it is accurate or not, indoctrinated or not? Furthermore, if educators are blind to learning the truth, then their students are only left with the curriculum of what it depicts. And in essence, the blind are teaching the blind. Now, what this bill is so wonderfully providing is an opportunity for educators to not be blind anymore. The goal is to make more educators feel confident about teaching the truth of what history is without hidden agendas. To do this, you have to make the educator confident enough to spot the traps. The state of Florida is ensuring that teachers take the time to completely learn the truth of a preparation course so they can completely get energized to teach rich, trusted curriculum. We want to create bold teachers that know what's right. I cannot wait to see more educators walk into their classrooms like I do every day and have their students overwhelmed with the love of learning and ready to share the strong Socratic discussions we take part in each day. The students will then be in turn molded and empowered to be the next great leaders of our country. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to strengthening and the success of Florida's education system.
Good morning, everyone. I'm State Representative Bernie Jacques from Pinellas County, and it is great to be with you all here this morning in Duval. And I think everybody in this room and everybody across our state knows that under the leadership of Governor DeSantis, Florida has led the way in removing indoctrination from our classrooms. But one of the things I was hearing from concerned parents and concerned teachers back home is that they're telling me, Bernie, even though it's not in the curriculum anymore, some of these teachers are still being indoctrinated. And what we learned is that it was coming through some of these educator preparation programs. And so even though in the classroom, the students were not allowed to be indoctrinated through the curriculum, the teachers were indoctrinated, so it was still seeping through because, again, along the way, they were getting all of this woke stuff being fed to them as they were becoming teachers. And so I partnered with my colleague, Representative John Snyder, and led the charge in the Florida House to make sure to eliminate all that stuff from our educator preparation courses. Now, when I was debating this bill on the House floor, I called the indoctrination that they were feeding the teachers woke garbage. And, you can imagine a lot of the Democrats, they didn't like it too much, right? They were calling a point of order. They said I broke decorum. They're asking the speaker to admonish me. And so I took a deep breath, and I came back with a more polite term. And I called it woke rubbish, Chief. The fact of the matter is this: regardless of how you slice it, whether it's CRT or DEI, all of that stuff is simply trash. And with the signature today of House Bill 1291, Governor, we will take out the trash once and for all here in the state of Florida. Thank you, and God bless.
All right, whoever's going to get up, we'll go ahead and do the bill. May 2nd, right?
Yes, sir. Thursday.
All right. So we're going to do first. So, financial bill here. All right. So this is the deposits for the credit unions and protections for the yeah. Who wants one? Sure. You get the teacher one.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Governor. All right, so there's that one. All right, so here's the educator one. All right, now take one. Anyone else? Bernie?
Bernie.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You get it? Okay. Anyone else? Okay, there we go. All right, so we've got two. There we go. All righty, good job, guys. Thank you, sir. Yep. Appreciate it. Yeah, of course. Well, we look forward. I think that bill takes effect July 1st, so I'm sure that credit unions are going to be banging on Jimmy's door to be able to get some business, and I look forward to saving money for the state. So whatever we can do, to be able to, I haven't signed the budget yet. We're still going through it, but part of it, we started a accelerated debt repayment program because we've already paid off over 25% of the state's total debt just since I've been in office, and we now have the lowest per capita debt of any state in the United States. But we actually have a program that we started last year to say let's retire some of that debt early if it's financially sensible. So we have another round of that. So you're going to continue to see us do some really good things. And like, how good is it to be in a state where they're have low debt and they're paying it off early instead of some of these places that have like all these unfunded liabilities which they're not going to be able to pay, and eventually they're going to try to get a federal taxpayer bailout to be able to bail them out. Now they will do that over my opposition, and I think the opposition of many others, but that's where it's headed. The other thing is we were on Tuesday, we were able to put out the announcement for our Gulf red snapper season. And this is something that's very important for the state, particularly for recreational fishermen. And so the Atlantic red snapper is managed by the feds. The Gulf has been managed by Florida for, a decent amount of time. Well, I talk to people here on this coast. There are snapper there. Like the data, like what the feds do is not an accurate reflection. And it was the same thing with the Gulf, even though the Gulf had a little bit more access compared to what the feds were doing. So I was like, this data is not accurate. The people are there. They see the fish. I mean, they're there. So why don't we go and actually do this in a way that makes sense? So we've been able to expand, I think, every year since I've been governor. But last year we did the largest by far, and we were able to beat that this year by almost 4 weeks more for Gulf red snapper, 103 days. And he knows it's important being in the Panhandle, but it's just something that's really good. And everybody's happy and all this. Well, that's what we're doing on Gulf because we have control over it, or we're able to manage within. There are limitations what we can do, but we're doing all that we can. The feds manage Atlantic red snapper, and so last year, while we had a record season in the Gulf, more than we've ever had until my announcement for this year, how many days was there for Atlantic red snapper? It's like 2 days. I mean, it's like they don't do, and they're there. So I would love for the state to be able to take over management of the Atlantic red snapper. I think everybody see opportunities expand for people to be able to go out and to fish, because I don't think that what the federal agencies are using is an accurate reflection of what's actually there in terms of the population. So we've had great success in the Gulf, and we're the best fishing state in the United States, and there's a reason for that. We want to do all we can to make sure that people have a lot of opportunities to enjoy themselves. So I know there's a lot of people in Jimmy's neck of the woods that are licking their chops for June 1st to come, and they're going to be out there doing that, and that's good. That's part of what makes it great. So, okay, with that, I'll take some questions.
There's murmurs of a possible special session. Could we see a competing abortion amendment made on the ballot this year?
That would be news to me if that were to happen in terms of any other amendments being added to the ballot. But there may be people in the legislature talking. It's not coming from me if that's the case.
Governor, Senate Bill 7014, which is about ethics reform, overwhelmingly passed the Senate, overwhelmingly passed the House by a 2-to-1 margin. Would you like to see that bill brought to your desk, and would you be willing to sign it?
I don't know that I've reviewed that yet, so it has not been sent to me. I mean, I think, as you know, they pass all this stuff, like hundreds of bills, and then they send, and then once they send to me, the clock starts. So although we are reviewing bills and we go through them, that has not been sent to my desk yet. So I'm not exactly sure what's in that, so when I get it, I will get back to you with an answer on that. Yes, sir.
Like to have a special session or the triggering of immigration enforcement?
I would, yes, I do. I think that the SB 4 that Texas did was, it's still in the courts. It got a favorable, then kind of a not favorable from the U.S. Supreme Court. But bottom line is given what's happened, the states, we need to do whatever we can to be able to protect against. And here's the thing, you remember when we did we did a program for the transport out of Florida for illegal immigrants, and some of that is, it's like we're not a border state. A lot of it we've stopped from, like, boats from Haiti coming in, and we've worked very hard on that. But we funded the thing for the Martha's Vineyard, right? And so this is a sanctuary jurisdiction, they claimed. You have 50, and all hell breaks loose. They freaked out, that was happening for that, and it just showed you, they want open border until they have to deal with it. I can tell you, it's just it's a little bit of a bubble, but nevertheless, on that, most of the people that went were from Venezuela. So people at the time were saying, oh, well, down in Miami, they're going to be so mad at the governor. So I go down there, and I didn't know. I didn't think that was true, but I know these Venezuelans are high-fiving me. Why? Because they know part of what Maduro has done is he has taken people out of prison and actually sent them to the southern border. So what's happened in terms of the people coming in, people that don't have this country's interest at heart have absolutely used that to their effect. And you talk about 10 million people. If even 1% of those people are bad, that's a lot of people for that. And we know the cartels are doing much more than that. So we just have to do all that we can. We're not in the same position as Texas. And I think what we've done with the maritime has been fantastic. In fact, you go back 2 months ago, people were saying Florida's going to have this deluge of vessels coming from Haiti because of all the instability there. And we've had people since the 2023 January, we fortified to help the Coast Guard. We've had over 14,000 illegals interdicted and returned since January 2023. And then since we did even more of a beef up a couple months ago, we've had very little even attempt, because when they do, they get captured and then they're able to get turned back. So it's totally not worth getting on a vessel trying to come to Florida, because the chance of you getting through is pretty slim. And I think we've sent that message, and so people have now said, man, it's amazing that there's not more vessels coming in from Haiti. No, it's not. It's not something that's it's sensible that would happen, because we took action. So within the confines of what we've done, I think a really, really good job. But you also have situations where Biden, he's going into foreign countries. He's taking inadmissible aliens, he's legalizing them. Now, it's illegal what he's doing, but he is granting them at least superficial legal status, and he's flying them into the United States and dropping them in the United States. You had the situation where the one guy that they brought in from Haiti is now under charges for sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl in Massachusetts. And it's like, we have all these problems in this country. Do you really need to be airdropping in inadmissible aliens using taxpayer funds? It makes no sense. So whatever we can do to protect, in light of some of the things Texas has done, I'm supportive of. But I will say this: the actions we've taken have been effective. I mean, you go back when Biden first started, I was the first state to send people to. I knew what was going to happen. I mean, I think a lot of you probably did too, but like, we knew. So we sent people down to stop, right, as best we could. And what you found is a lot of the people that came in illegally, a surprising number were looking to come to Florida. Now, we thought that maybe some, but it was a surprising number. Since all the reforms we've done, when people come across, they mention Florida a lot less to our guys that are on the border, because I think they realize we've disincentivized a lot of that. So I think everything the legislature has done that I've signed, I think has been effective. I think what we've done with the maritime has been very, very effective. And so if we have an opportunity to build on that, we definitely want to do that.
Governor, what are your thoughts about Vice President Harris's visit yesterday, trying to reverse the work that the state and former President Donald Trump has done for the abortion ban?
It's interesting. I see the Vice President Harris coming in, and she tries to say that somehow she represents, standing up for women. Meanwhile, their administration is trying to force men into women's bathrooms and locker rooms. How is that good for women? How is it good for girls to have boys compete against them in these sports? And so I just think that it's just bizarre what they're doing. It's not constitutional what they're doing. We're fighting back against it. We're not going to comply with it. But the idea that a Biden-Harris ticket is going to be competitive in Florida, that's a farce. First of all, we're going to have 1 million more registered Republicans than Democrats by Election Day. We have 900,000 more now today. I can tell you, when I first took this office, nobody thought that was possible, and yet here we are. But I think it's even more than that. Have they succeeded on inflation and interest rates? No. Have they succeeded on solidifying our border? To the contrary, they've intentionally opened the border and caused all these problems. Have they helped lead the world in a way that is deterring conflict and promoting peace and stability? No. The world is much more ablaze than it had been prior to Biden-Harris taking office. And so I think you look at it and you're like, okay, what does it say about our country that you can have that track record and somehow get re-upped for another 4 years? So that isn't going to happen in Florida. We're very confident that that'll be the case. But I'll tell you this, I welcome them. Some of you guys and your employers would appreciate, light up the airwaves in Florida. Burn all the money you want down here. I'm fine. I'd rather you spend it here than in Wisconsin or Pennsylvania or some of these other places. So please come and do that. We're fine with that, but I don't think people are going to be buying what they're selling. Yes, sir.
There are two elements of House Bill 989 that I wanted to elaborate your thoughts on. One is the idea of a safety store in lithium-ion batteries to prevent fires from happening. How did local news outlet WKMG help ensure that that portion of the legislation will be passed?
You want to talk about it?
So we had gotten into, we learned something from every storm. And KMG was an amazing partner with bringing this issue to the forefront after Hurricane Ian. And we had gotten an environment where it's not just limited to EVs, but it's all lithium-ion batteries. Fantastic technology. It's not going away. But we are putting our first responders in harm's way. In addition, we are putting our citizens in harm's way. So we've been, with that signature that the governor just did, that's enabled rulemaking. So we're going to lean forward and we're going to start creating policies that make sense for safe handling to make sure that our families are safe and our first responders are safe. But KMG was a great partner with all that. Couldn't have done it without them.
And the other, to couple that, part of that legislation also talks about benefits of firefighters who may end up being diagnosed.
Oh, you got the right guy for that one.
Yeah. Again, this guy signed the bill that is going to make sure that there's no question that our firefighters deserve the cancer benefits, that there's no area of gray. It's very black and white that if they contract cancer during their time of service or up to 10 years afterwards, that they're going to have that policy there to give their families the peace of mind. Again, so Mike, if you're watching, thank you for what you did to help with this policy.
The thing, on these, on these EVs, so Ian comes through Southwest Florida, Category 5, like massive storm, and it was a big storm too, very powerful. So it hits like Sanibel and those areas really hard. But Sanibel, right there on the Gulf, those are very upscale, nice homes, by and large, relatively modern construction. And so they withstood the Cat 5 winds. But what would happen is you'd have the storm surge, water would go, and so you may have some really nice house that withstands the Cat 5, but as the water rises in your garage, you have an EV, the battery catches on fire because of the saltwater intrusion, and then the house burns down. And these fires are very difficult than if we just started a fire to roast marshmallows. That is not the type of, these firefighters are there for hours to put out one of these EV fires. So it was just, I think, an eye-opener for people about how those work, particularly in the context of a storm. And look, I am not I mean, I rail against these EV mandates because I think it's insane that you're trying to impose this across the economy. I am totally in favor. If you want to go buy an EV, a Tesla, or some of these other things, there's a lot of neat things about that. You should absolutely be free to do that. But to try to shoehorn every consumer into an EV is a huge mistake. Most consumers don't want it. They want to have an internal combustion, and so when you try to do that, what it's going to do is a lot of these cars are not going to be sold because you can do a Tesla or some that are like very high end. The average person that wants like a Ford F-150, they want that to be internal combustion. I'd say 9 out of 10 people want that to be that. So these others are just going to sit on the lots. The car companies are going to make money. So it's going to have huge problems all across. That being said, knock yourself out if you like it. I think that that's totally fine. But I think that the hurricane situation opened people's eyes to, okay, you have that issue in Florida. Then you also have a situation, yes, we got the power back on faster than any major hurricane in the history of the country after Ian. And that's great. And there was a lot of people that worked hard. Those linemen were ready. The companies were working hard. When we had some of the companies that were falling behind, you had FPL, Duke, some of them surged people to help them and get them on. So it was a team effort, and it's good. But just imagine if that wasn't possible. Or just imagine if you were in an area where maybe you didn't have leadership that thought getting the lights on was that much of a priority. If you have an EV, how do you charge it up? I mean, how do you do that? Whereas if you have the normal car, you could have canisters of gas and then put it in and do it, and people can stock up. So I think it just raised a lot of eyebrows for folks, but there is a safety component to it. And again, I think people can go into this eyes wide open and do what they want in terms of all these things. But they're clearly, I think, needs to be more of this done that build us. So I think that's really, really good. Well, listen, we are going to be working through the budget. I think that we've done a lot on it already. I have approved some major parts of the budget, but there's going to be more to do. We are going to have people are going to look and say that Florida is the most fiscally responsible state in the country when we're done with the budget. And I say that for a number of reasons, because you're going to see we haven't grown government year over year. You're going to see that we're paying down debt at massive levels. You're going to see we're doing robust tax relief on a lot of different things, and then much of the permanent relief we've done in past years is still going. You're going to see us, even within that, you're going to see we have the strongest budget for education we've ever had. We have the strongest budget for transportation and infrastructure we've ever had. We have the strongest budget for environment and natural resources we've ever had. So we're doing it right, and our budget, even though we have millions of more people than New York, it's the state closest to us in population, their budget's twice the size of our budget in Florida. For what? What are they doing? People that move from New York tell me the roads are nicer here, the services are more efficient, and the schools are better. So how do you square spending all that money? So we're doing it right. I think it'll be a really good snapshot of, I mean, this has been, for years and years of work, for many, many years. But certainly, I think these last, 4 or 5 years, I mean, this state has really hit a stride in a big way in terms of fiscal and in terms of long-term potential. Some of these other places really have serious unfunded liabilities, and I think we've worked really hard to make sure that we're not only doing well today, we're doing well far into the future. And even with all of that, the revenue that we're getting in continues to exceed what the forecasts have been. I think that's been true. I mean, like when COVID came, they said, oh, it's just going to be catastrophic or whatever. And we're like, well, no, we can't accept that. I mean, we've got to go. But I think because we were one of the few states where you can actually do things, we had people flooding down here, and tourism picked up much quicker than anyone thought. You could go to like the Panhandle in like May of 2020. If you didn't have news turned on, you wouldn't have known COVID existed. I mean, people were down there doing, and they had, I think, the best summer they'd ever had at that point for that. But the thing is just you've seen that, and it's kind of kept churning and churning. So we want to continue to build off that. But I think the legislature did a good job. Look, I've got to go through the budget and make sure that it's in the parameters that I think we need for the state. but I think the picture is going to look very, very strong. So you should feel good as a Florida taxpayer to know that we've got a great outlook going forward. Thanks, everybody.